Hello, everybody, and welcome to Athletic Definition. My name is Coach Ray. Happy Friday to everybody listening in. And today, my guest is Kriszanne. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. This is so lovely. It's my first time.
Oh, no problem. Welcome to Fireside. And one of the reasons why I want to have you on here is because you do a bunch of different cool things that I'm into. You're into the cold showers and jujitsu and meditation. And so one of my goals is I have a daughter, and so I would like her to do jujitsu, but I'm having a hard time convincing her. And also, I was looking up stats of how many women practice jujitsu, and it's really hard to find. It's kind of even hard to find how many people practice jujitsu. So uh, since I got this platform, I figured it'd be a great way for me to be an unofficial ambassador and try and get more women interested in practicing jujitsu. So I thought it'd be cool if we could start off by how and why you got into jujitsu.
Yeah, great question. So I wanted to wrestle in high school. And that wasn't kind of really, society's norm at the time. So actually, I came up with this whole like giant scheme to actually no, I forged the documents and I asked my mom if I can join the wrestling team. And she was like, "No, you're gonna get manhandled." So I came up with this like giant schemes, like forged the paperwork, and then as soon as I completed that, it occurred to me that I would have to like really come up with stories after school as to why I'm not home. So then that was like too great of a lie. Anyway, I ended up not doing wrestling, and then but we're really close with some of the guys that were in the wrestling team, and then one of my friends at the time, Nick. So imagine like 15-year-old me like convincing my buddy Nick to like come over, to the house and teach like my brothers and I to do some jujitsu. So that's kind of like my first taste of jujitsu. I was learning like some sweeps, like rear naked choke and stuff like that. So yeah, that was the first intro, and then as soon as I finished college, and had enough time and resources, I got started in No Limits in Orange County, and that's where Rampage Jackson and Tito Ortiz like trained at the time. So that's kind of when my journey.
Oh, that's very cool. And so I'm glad you didn't give up on wrestling and learning how to grapple. But in the meantime, did you end up doing any other high school sports since you couldn't end up doing wrestling like you wanted to?
So I've always been like a pretty, I don't know, like active kid, I guess. So prior to that, I was doing martial arts already. I was doing taekwondo. So from like 11 till 17, I was doing that, and I got my black belt in the end. But I've always been active. I mean, even in middle school, like I was playing basketball. In high school, I did want to play baseball as well. Again, not really the norm. But I did play tennis. I did color guard. I was like in all these different like clubs. I was also skateboarding at the time, and snowboarding. So does that pretty much sum it up? Let me think. Yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty much all of it.
Now, snowboarding is something you did on your own, or was that something your high school offered? Because I know my high school didn't have nothing like cool like that.
No, no, definitely. My high school is way too far from the mountains to offer that. So definitely not. No, I started snowboarding when I was like 13. My aunt got me into. Actually, yeah, we kind of did it as a family. To be fair, so no, that was kind of like a thing I did on my with my family. Yeah,
And then when you first walked into the gym, was that intimidating for you? Looking into the numbers, it's such a small percentage of people that will even attempt jujitsu. And so the female is, I, I looked for a couple hours. All the articles are old, and it's 2021. So I really couldn't come up with any accurate number uh, of how many females are practicing jujitsu in 2021.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the numbers to tell you the truth, but I can definitely say there's been a huge boost, since when I started officially. So that was like 2007 is when I like signed myself up and like really properly got into it. Um I wasn't really too intimidated because it's kind of my nature anyway to just kind of, forge my way into doing something, something new. So that's kind of a maybe like a regular habit of mine, to just do it by myself. Um, but and plus, like I do have the martial arts background, so if anything, like that, the mats kind of feel more at home to me. So it's kind of a comfortable environment. Um, so not really. No, not to tell you the truth. I didn't really feel into
And so, what other type of martial art background do you have?
taekwondo. Taekwondo. Yeah.
And how far along did you get in Taekwondo?
I got my black belt when I was 17.
Nice, congratulations. Did you ever compete, or I believe they have Taekwondo in the Olympics? So, did you have any aspirations of that as well?
I did compete in taekwondo like a few times. Again, I was very involved in so many different things at the time. To tell you the truth, my aspirations for like the Olympics was really more so for snowboarding. Like, I had these dreams of like, yeah, like, crushing it and like getting so much air and like, so I mean, I still do like tricks and things like that, but I never, got so much into like, I don't know, doing half pipes or anything like too.
Well, now, if you still have dreams of that, they still have the X Games now as well.
Yeah, I mean, to tell you the truth, like those dreams were a little bit crushed when I broke my ankle from skateboarding. So I broke my ankle skateboarding when I was about how old was I? 18. Yeah. So I was 18 and bombing this hill. Um, got the speed wobbles, like flew off, like yeah, broke my ankle into three different places and like compound fracture. And I didn't walk for 8 months after that, and I, since then I haven't like really fully skateboarded because that's it's my pedaling foot. But I did manage eventually to snowboard, and get back into it again. So yeah, that was a little bit of a that was kind of like a life changing moment.
Would that be your biggest injury so far?
Coach Ray, interestingly, the most recent one with the concussion might be like up there, and it's a different type of injury, because I mean the other one's like okay, I'm totally immobilized, as far as like walking and being active, and again not walking for 8 months, so that's huge. However, the last one, this major concussion that I've just gotten over, um, you know, again, it's not like a broken bone. It's a very strange thing to have a concussion because it's not very visible. This type of injury. But that one, like, I was pretty much bedridden. I couldn't get back into jiu-jitsu for a whole year, and it affected my memory. I had memory loss. Visual and audio sensitivities. So there were a lot of like things that changed my reality, if that makes any sense. But so yeah, it's another type of significant injury, but it's hard to kind of compare because it's not a broken.
Well, I haven't had any broken bones. Had some stitches, dislocated fingers, definitely a few concussions, sparring. Um, Never a broken ankle, thank goodness. But how did you receive your concussion? Don't tell me it was jujitsu, because I don't think I've ever heard of that, although it's possible.
um I'll be more technical. It was actually in a wrestling class, even though very jujitsu related. No, I've actually had a few concussions through jujitsu already, and of course, like other sports, like definitely like snowboarding and skateboarding. But This one was an interesting one because, again, like having to have had concussions in the past, I was a little bit foolish and reckless to think that, maybe a week's worth of rest would be sufficient. Uh, Rather, I kind of had like a co-concussive injury. So a month before this major one, I already did have a concussion. So again, this is like jiu-jitsu related, right? So like my style of jiu-jitsu is a little bit like rhino-esque, leading with a head, a bit of a wrestler style in that sense. And I definitely like just full blown like rammed into someone's knee. So that was the first time. So I was a little bit rocked. So I rested for about a week, and then 3 to 4 weeks later, I was in wrestling class, and yeah, I just got a little bit too carried away, in this move. It was a takedown move. It was like live sparring, and I was meant to do kind of like a, uh, you know, clinch at the waist, and like a kind of like a sit down takedown. And rather, I did like kind of like a suplex move, but then left my head behind her back, so left it there. So one side of my head, my left side, landed on the mat, but I took her entire body on top of me and crushed me on my right side of the head. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm glad you're doing better. Yet concussions, you know, with all these pro athletes, and we see what happens to them later, it makes you just kind of wonder how much of it is related to hits they've taken, from previous concussions. Even like Richard Sherman, I'm a 49ers fan, and he recently got into some problems. It could have been the alcohol, but who knows if it has anything to do with related hits, like we've seen in the past, like Junior Seau, a great athlete, citizen, father, husband, and then a bunch of brain damage. But that's part of the reason why I stopped boxing and stick to jiu-jitsu. And I mean, every sort of physical contact sport has a chance, but I would say overall, jiu-jitsu is pretty safe. You usually don't get that, and yeah, you can get a knee. That's actually how I got my eyes stitched. I caught a knee as well. So things like that do happen, but they're rare. And like everything else, you just move on. And, you're pretty active and done all kinds of things. So, just for context, and the listeners listening in, they must think you're, like a super athlete. Would you mind telling them how tall you are and your height, and, just so they get an idea?
Okay, so you want me to give my stats? Definitely. Okay, so guys, I am 6'7", 250 pounds on the inside. But physically, I'm 5'1", about a buck 25.
And so, since you are 5'1", a buck 25, how do you feel the jujitsu? Have you ever had to deal with jujitsu like in real life situation where hopefully you haven't been, but where you've maybe been harassed by a guy on the street and you've had to use it?
Um, so okay, so using jujitsu out in the wild. Okay, so I've actually used taekwondo. I'm just gonna make this distinction. I used taekwondo actually in real life when I was much younger in high school. Like I'm just gonna tell this like little anecdote here. Um, there was this boy who was kind of like goofing off and being like a little bit of a bully, and we were like in the ASB, you know, building or whatnot, and like I needed to get like through him, like past, and he just wouldn't give me way. And he was kind of known to be like rambunctious and like, like slightly like bully-esque, I guess. And I don't know, just kind of give me a hard time. So I warned him. I was like, "Hey," and he was like standing like maybe a foot in front of me. And again, I'm like 5'1". He's maybe like, let's say like 5, I don't know, 10 or something like that. And then he was like, "No, I'm not gonna let you pass," and give me a hard time. So I warned him. I was like, "Hey, if you don't move, I'm gonna kick you in the face." And then he just started like again like rattling off like ah. And then mid sentence I just like yeah threw up like a flying roundhouse, kind of like roundhouse axe kick, and kicked him like across the chin. And then yeah, I just stopped mid-sentence, and he was like, I just can't believe, you kicked me in the face. And I was like, hey man, I warned you. And I just like walked right past him. So that was more so Taekwondo. But jujitsu in real life, I'm just gonna be completely honest and confess this. One time, it's kind of like the Dunning Kruger, like, thing where you learn a little bit of knowledge and you think like you're this, like, super beast, whatever. And I would say, like, for most people, it's kind of the same thing with jujitsu. Like, you learn a little bit of power and you think you're like all invincible, and then you have to keep in the back of your mind, like, Uncle Ben's rule, like, with great power comes great responsibility. So this was like the moment that I learned that lesson. Like, I was out with some friends, and honestly, like, a little bit of a drunken, thing. And I feel like that's also what happens sometimes, is like drunken jitsu, let's say. And got into like some sort of like ridiculous, again, scuffle with this girl, and this was like my early 20s, and just kind of like mouthing off. And then she just kind of like, yeah, you know touched me, whereas like, or pushed me or something like that, and I immediately like reacted, like, boom, and realized like how vulnerable she felt to me. Like, she was definitely an untrained, like, unskilled person. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I was really close to just like bashing my knee into her face. Like, I had her like head down, like her bent over, and like I was about to like start kneeing her in the face. And again, not related to jiu-jitsu, but at the time I was like training, and I was like, whoa. I felt instantly so kind of like disgusted with myself. I was just like, this is not right and gross, and like this felt this like overwhelming sense of like, what am I doing? So then, like, I just kind of like let go of her in that instant, and then like walked to the car. And then for days after that, I felt kind of like, yeah, again, like grossed out at that behavior and ashamed. So that's when that was like a key moment where I realized, like, I actually don't like fighting. I don't like it. So I've never really had to use, like, yeah, jujitsu outside of, the gym, aside from like teaching, friends and family, or clients. But yeah.
And so for people listening in who just, don't know much about jiu-jitsu in general has five belts. The white belt is the novice, then you go to blue, purple, brown, and black. And you're a purple belt. And so I know, and thank God you haven't had to try it, but how, being 5'1" and 125, how effective do you feel it is as, like, for self-defense? Because yesterday on my show I was basically saying that I recommend that all women should train jiu-jitsu, and that's why I want to have different women that I know that practice jiu-jitsu, all different shapes and sizes and ages. That way people can't, say, well, I'm too old, or this and that, or I broke my ankle before. And, I just really think everyone should do it, just like everyone should work out. So do you actually feel, and I would assume yes, because you keep training, but do you feel that, like, for example, me, when I started training, 200-pound guys were like hard for me to maneuver, that were untrained. But now I can hold my own. And so, how is that for you? When you go up against men? And
Sorry, I was muted. I was like faffing around with the app. Okay. How is it for training against like bigger guys? For me, it's normal. Like, that's part of jujitsu. Again, like, being a buck 25, I can count on one hand, how many partners, like consistent partners, I've ever had, that I trained with, that were either my weight or less than, and if they weren't, that weren't children, basically. So it's like, I'm used to being, and again, I don't see myself this way, which is why it's kind of a little bit of a cognitive like dissonance moment. Is like, I see myself in images and I'm like, oh my god, am I really the smallest person in this class? But yeah, apparently I am. And yeah, I go against my average like partner is, I would say, like a buck 65, like, once, 165 pounds, which is like the average partner that I've had usually. And again, it's super empowering because it's effective. It's effective. I've choked out guys that were like, 165 all the way up to like 200, 250. And it's like a matter of again, it's technique, and it's like, utilizing um physics, and kind of applying pressure, your entire body weight, at certain points, like for control, so it's like when those skills and strategy, like you can definitely, work against or be effective against an opponent that's like, a little bit bigger than you. However, I do want to say, like, if we're going to talk self defense, like, I don't want people to think that, like, oh, just because I know a bit of jujitsu, then I can, like, scrap with someone off the street. Like, the number one rule really of self defense is safety, so it's like, you don't need to engage in the fight or prove anything, so the best thing is really to get away. And I would like to say yes, like jujitsu is for everyone, but I don't feel like it is, like I feel like there's a certain type of person that's attracted to jujitsu. It's a different kind of martial arts. It's very intimate, and there's other ways as well. There's other ways to do self defense. You can learn some jujitsu, but doesn't mean that you have to train it, um, you know, forever. Again, I don't think it's for everyone. But yeah, no, it does feel like pretty amazing to, again, like be able to like hold my own against guys that are like potentially like twice.
Oh, I agree with you. And that's the great thing about jujitsu. It's uh, not something that you have to. If you want to be competition and technique, yes, it's something you have to practice all the time. But if you were to train for a while and then stop, you trained it for a good enough time, you would probably have enough basic self defense moves, against the average attacker on the street. So, yeah, it's not for everyone in the long term. That's why 1% only make it to black belt. I believe, if my math isn't wrong, you probably have about 14 years practicing jujitsu. And so, is your long term goal the black belt?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely accurate. Yes, it's about been about 14 years, my journey, doing jujitsu. Again, for me, it's been like a relationship. It's been like a relationship to jujitsu. Because again, it's a very testing martial art or sport, mentally, physically, and we live, multifaceted lives, so it's like jujitsu, it doesn't just encompass everything, in a person's life. There's other aspects of it, like family, relationships, job, etc. So those things also, affect jujitsu, let's say. And so there were many points in that journey that I was like, I don't know if jujitsu is really for me, And jujitsu and I like went on a break a few times, either by my choice, either by like the choice of, by circumstance. But no, I've totally mainlined jujitsu. I'm hooked. I've admitted to myself finally that this is definitely like my identity. I am a jujitsu practitioner. Um, and and yeah, no, it's kind of like going to be a lifelong thing. And I think the black belt's just going to be, the cherry on top.
Well, I am cheering you on to the cherry on top. And um, since you have been so active, and I know you say you can still kind of do tricks on the snowboard, what else do you currently still train in besides jujitsu?
Right now, honestly, I've just been like focused on yoga. What else? Yoga. I've been doing, so like practicing like various types of like balancing arm poses. And again, this I just have to give a little bit of background on this. I used to be that person, before yoga that used to think like, oh no, yoga's not for me, it doesn't give me enough of a sweat or burn, because I kind of came from like this like bodybuilding like mentality in a way of working out at the gym, and it's like, and I was proven completely wrong, and have fallen in love with yoga, and yoga has changed my life, in mind, body, and spirit, just as jujitsu has as well. So yes, definitely, I'm into yoga. Um, as far as like training anything else, like, I'm really focused on getting back in jujitsu, mostly because I mean I just finally, you know, I'm now able to like fully train jujitsu again. I've like overcome this. I've, healed my concussion, and so I'm like kind of re-entering the game like full force again, which is rather exciting. As far as anything else, I mean, I do have my eyes set on, like bouldering. I do that sometimes, but I would say like, I would like to get more so into like bouldering, like rock climbing. Let me think. Snowboarding's not going away, and I think that's it for now. Actually,
What is the difference between bouldering and rock climbing? I'm pretty sure I know what rock climbing is, but is that what you do?
so bouldering is almost like freestyle. Like, there's these gigantic boulders, or even like caves, or things like that, where you just kind of like climb that, like sometimes inverted. So that's more so bouldering. And then rock climbing is a little bit more involved sometimes with like, you can still do freehand or free solos, let's say, but it's more involved with like the like the gear and the harness, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I want to do like a bit more of like, I don't know, the rocks are just calling to me, basically. These giant boulders are calling to me, and honestly, like, I have this weird fascination with them. Like, I'll just like walk by, and when I'm like hiking or something, and can see the ones that are like really calling out to me, I'm like, ooh, that rock is just like, hankering to be climbed.
And since you all the activities you've done are pretty like, I wouldn't say extreme, but more active than I guess a lot of people would do. Um, and you kind of touched on it a little bit on yoga. A lot of people feel that it's just not, I don't get a good enough sweat or good enough workout, and they just have these pre-existing thoughts of what it does. So what made you try yoga, and also how did you get into meditation? Because a lot of people kind of feel the same way about meditation as they do yoga. Like, oh, I can't do it. It's not for me. I can't focus. So what led you?
Um, so I've had a few friends for years, like, and this was like, right around the time too that I was, I think, starting jujitsu. I had a few friends who were very much into yoga, and right where I was living at the time, there's like, yoga on the bluff, like being offered, or yoga outdoors, and um, yeah, it was my friends, and a buddy of mine too, like, ended up becoming a yoga instructor. So they'd invite me to come, like, oh, come, do this yoga. And again, I was a little bit more closed minded at the time, underestimating the power of yoga. And so I'd attend, and at first it was a little bit frustrating because I'm just like, oh my God, it's way more difficult than I had imagined, to like properly do the postures, and to have like such balance and flexibility, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, "Ah, it's just not giving me, I thought, like this adrenaline, like bliss or whatever that I'm like, wanting. And so, and again, there's also many different forms of yoga, and I feel like it was just a matter of trying the different ones, and then really finding the one that resonated best with me. And I would have to say though that my favorite kind is hot yoga. And again, like, just for the jiu-jitsu practitioners as well, like, it increased my game like tenfold. Like, we're talking like stamina, flexibility, focus, everything, like quieting the mind. Like, hot yoga has been like clutch in, for in jiu-jitsu for me, as well as in life. And then to speak on meditating and breath work, you know um, I started meditating maybe like, we all hear about it, like meditating, this and that. And what kind of sparked this, to tell you the truth, is I was doing one of those float tanks, when and they were kind of like starting to become fad. So I tried a float tank like ages ago, and it was a moment that I realized like I didn't know how to relax. I was like, my mind was kind of like racing the whole time, and while I was in there, in this sensory deprivation like environment, it was like uh, the whole time I was telling myself like, and this is the moment I relax, relax, relax now. Aren't you relaxed? Are you relaxing? Why am I not relaxed? And I was like, yikes, there's something to this. So then, yeah, I started, I don't know, just started kind of down the rabbit hole of meditation. So I would say I've been meditating now for the last, since 2017-ish? Yeah, 2017. So what is that, like almost 4 years? And again, that's also another life changing, event or practice, for me. So I've been doing that every morning now. And yeah, I think that answers.
Oh, it did 100%. And you mentioned breath work. So are you doing, because I know you started doing the cold showers. Are you doing like the Wim Hof breath work, or are you doing some other type of breath work?
Through yoga, I've been exposed to different kinds, and more so with hot yoga as well, even Bikram. I've done like pranayama, which I actually very much enjoy. And then also in exploring ways to like better my jujitsu, I've kind of spoke to some of my friends, that are like professional trainers, and asked them like, hey, what about this breathwork business? And I've done. I wouldn't say like I'm as consistent with breath work as I am with meditation, but I've done like box breathing, and again, I feel like that's very helpful. And then I've also gotten hooked now, onto this breath work through Miles, who we have in our jiu-jitsu community. He does like the Wim Hof, and I think oxygen, is it oxygen advantage? And oh my gosh, in the 10-minute sessions that I've had with him, I mean, we're talking like a full-blown like, endorphin dump, like a total like reset. I mean, my body was tingling and I'm sweating. I mean, there's so much power to that. And then to speak on cold showers, um, I was very much into biohacking a few years ago. I would say like right around 2014, 15. Um, yeah, 2014 actually. Yeah. This is when I was like getting into like podcasting, like listening to podcasts, and I was hooked on what's his name? The bulletproof guy, Dave Asprey. Dave Asprey at the time, and he had this guest talking about like thermogenics. So that was like hot cold exposure, and how again it increases your brown fat, releases or creates more like stem cells, which is better for a regenerative process, which is great for athletes, especially for myself who gets injured, et cetera, et cetera. So then while I was in this like biohacking mindset, I mean, I was trying like all sorts of different like modalities and just like ways of like experimenting with myself, to see like if I can like increase performance, better any aspect of myself. So that's when I kind of got hooked on like, cold exposure.
I started getting into biohacking when I heard a podcast as well. I used to listen to Ben Greenfield a lot, and that guy, he biohacks and tries everything. He says he does it, for the sake of letting us know, but I think he kind of enjoys it. But he's very informational, and I remember sometimes my brain would just hurt listening to it. But a lot of good information. And yeah, Miles was talking about that he does a version of the Wim Hof, but shorter. So, which is more convenient for a lot of people. I haven't had the opportunity to try it, but he was someone I was actually going to reach out to as well. Definitely interested in learning more about that. And are you currently competing? Do you have any competitions coming up in jiu-jitsu or snowboarding?
Well, I don't foresee myself competing in snowboarding. Although I'll still be like, like shredding for sure. But for jujitsu, so I kind of it's been an interesting, again, like, relationship to jujitsu. And so I kind of tabled competitions, for a long time, like thinking like, oh, like, maybe this isn't really like a thing for me. And life was just like more important at the time. But, now, like, with our community on Clubhouse, and, even Jack here, like, he knows this. um I've kind of gotten like re-inspired to actually, compete. However, with like my brazen personality, I was even considering like competing this weekend. But mind you, I had just like overcome, this concussion business. So responsible adult me decided that it'd be best to do it, when I'm like properly prepared, even though I'm very much the type to just like go out there like guns blazing, you know, rather than potentially like just injure myself out of lack of, preparation. I think it would be best, again, to go in there like with like a solid tool belt, like, swords, like swords sharpened, and yeah, like ready to throw down. Because I mean, for some reason, my mind just forgets that it's like going to be like a super like explosive and dynamic like situation, which I haven't been fully immersed in a while. So yeah, I think with much preparation, I'm actually like pretty keen to, yeah, get back out.
I know when we're injured or coming back from injury, we always want to rush back, and it's really, really difficult. Um, I know there was a time where my knee was really starting to bother me, and I didn't want to get off the mats. And um, in some weird way, that eye injury was kind of the what I needed. That for sure told me it's time to take a break. The doctor's telling you to take a break. And then what I did instead of just kind of wasting, or what I consider wasting my time, is I learned more about my body parts that I damaged and how I could fix them and how I could make them stronger. And I, I I could definitely feel that injuries can be better for people if they just stop being so depressed about it and negative about it, and just find something useful to do with their time. And so I'm glad you're taking the time off. So are you looking for maybe early competition next year, or
I'm even considering, competition like later this year. So we'll see, like what'll be in the works. But as I was given some good advice that I should really just kind of, enjoy this moment, because I've just started at a new school, enjoy this time, of like, again, like fully immersing like back in jujitsu. And it's true. I'm kind of like like, in a way, like relearning, but then also kind of expanding, in other ways. So I kind of want to get like a fully comprehensive like game again. And then, yeah, I'd be really stoked, to get back out there. I think it'd be really fun, especially now, again, with our community, like, of jujitsu practitioners. I think it'd be fun to like see.
oh yes, that's the great part of social media. If you're actually social, you can meet some very cool people. And I've met, well, I actually haven't met them, but some people have been following me for years. Some of them are like boxers and just from all different genres. And I'm like, oh, finally have a platform to bring them on and kind of say thank you for supporting me this whole time. So that's very cool. And uh, if you compete, let me know. I know Jack's competing this weekend, so definitely gonna see if I can make it out there. Trying to move things around, and the jiu-jitsu community is such a tight niche community. That's why it may not be for everybody, but for people that just may be hesitant and just think that it's a bunch of Neanderthals, you definitely just got to give it a try. That's all I'm saying. And I know you mentioned snowboarding, so and right now it's summertime, so I'm sure you haven't really done anything because of your concussion. Are you looking to hit the slopes at the end of the year as well?
Absolutely, yes. It's been a while. I miss it. So yeah, it'd be great to like get back out there. Probably have to get a helmet now, because we're wizened and responsible. But yeah.
I tried snowboarding twice and just basically landed on my ass over and over again, and I was like on the little kid slopes, and that was good enough for me. It was fun, but I couldn't get over the. It hurt. It hurt. The next day, my butt was all sore. I was like, "Oh, what happened here?" So I won't go back to snowboarding anymore. But I'll try it one time. And
So I
go
won't be
ahead.
seeing you. I won't be seeing you out there shredding on the half pipes, coach.
No, it's amazing that you do tricks. I did skateboarding, and then I got into longboarding for a little while, and then you can really pick up good speed on those. So if you crash, that was it. I retired after my crash on a longboard. I was going way too fast in the hill in LA, and I flew like Superman for a good block. I was wearing jeans. I ripped them completely and was bloody everywhere. So that was the last time I was on a skateboard and a snowboard as well, actually.
Sweet. Shredded some jeans, huh?
Yeah, that was good times. Now you mentioned you just went to a new gym, and as I was researching about women in jiu-jitsu, most women that go to jiu-jitsu, a lot of them are going there for self-defense. And the one article that I did come up with was from Jiu-Jitsu Times, and it was like from 2017. And they were saying that a lot of women, I guess, actually experience harassment, either by other males, whether it's verbally or physically. Um, and I'm not sure how many different, you know, places you've trained, but have you ever experienced anything like that yourself?
Um, no, I wouldn't say I've ever experienced harassment actually. Again, I've experienced, machismo, let's say, so like a little bit of like okay, it's not like kind of like an equal setting. Um, but and also like I've been to like this is what my fourth like main gym now. So I've had a fair share. So no, I haven't experienced harassment myself.
Well, that's good. This survey was about a little bit over 1,000, and as I mentioned, maybe it's something I should try and look into. It's really hard to pinpoint numbers of jujitsu, how many practitioners, how many worldwide, and because there's basically no sort of system that could, there's no one co-sharing like how many belts you have of this and how many of them are female or male. But it would definitely be interesting to know how many people are out there, and thanks to social media, the community can grow in different ways as well. And also, other people can hear the beauty and the tight niche of the jiu-jitsu community and may try it. And it may be for them. Or, for me, when I tried it, I wasn't expecting to keep doing it. I just like doing all kinds of different sports, but jiu-jitsu is something that I really kind of fell in love with. So, um, I know it's going to be a long road, but at this point, I don't even really care about the belt. I just see it as a lifelong thing. So, of course, it would be great to get the cherry on top and get the black belt. And I want to thank you so much for being on here. Is there anything you want to promote? Anything you have upcoming? Any sort of a thing you need to promote that you would like to mention?
Let's see. I don't think so.
No.
No. Oh, by the way, I did forget. I don't know why this just arrived to me. The other hobby that I'm like really getting into. I know this is like um is surfing. Yeah. So
Oh,
I'm now like finally like getting into surfing like properly. So yeah, looking forward to that. Let me think. Promotions. I don't know if you. I guess if you're in Clubhouse and come join us at the SI hour. Other than that, no promotions on my behalf.
so what I'll do is right now on the fortune cookie, I'll put the Instagram link to the Asahi Hour. And if you don't know what Asahi is, it's basically a fruit that grows in Brazil. Uh, and then over here, they turned it into a delicious dessert. And Kriszanne she has great rooms where she gets into controversial topics like, do you put peanut butter in your Asahi bowl? And very things like, and actually Fireside, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people that are willing to take risk and want to touch those touchy subjects. So I think since you have experience with those touchy subjects, you would be great for this platform.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I mean, to PB or not to PB, and to have stripes or no stripes. Yeah, true. I know. Controversy
Oops.
galore.
And let me see here. I'm looking for. Give me 1 second. You can. I'm trying to put your Asahi page here so people can find you. And then it basically shows up on the fortune cookie. And then if you're interested to listen in, or feel that you want to network in any way, you can go ahead and reach out to Kriszanne. Almost done here. And you'll see it on the fortune cookie. The good thing is, even if I put it at the very end, it'll be the first thing that appears when people log on. So uh, if you guys are interested in getting into that hot debate, go ahead and click on the fortune cookie. All right, it should be appearing now. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a great weekend. Yeah, as soon as you are ready to compete in anything, especially coming off your concussion, I'd be more than happy to have you come on before or after to just get an update on how you're feeling and or how you did in the tournament as well. And then hopefully by then, have you actually hit the waves already or not yet?
Just well, you mean like full? Well, so I started surfing like a few years ago, like in Kauai, on a shortboard, and that was really fun. It's definitely a different challenge, and again, I still want to learn like, tricks, turning, etc., etc. So I'm still on my way there, but recently I've been more so like bodyboarding. So yeah, yeah, that's still early. I'm still a greenhorn.
Well, in Jiu Jitsu, they always say you're swimming with sharks. So, how do you actually feel about swimming with sharks? Does that worry you?
It's one of those things that I used to be like fearful of, like being out there and not knowing what's lurking underneath me. But I've kind of developed this like mindset and attitude about like really doing the things I'm like very much afraid of. So I mentioned this earlier to like Yosh and the other guys. When I was much younger, I was afraid of heights. So then I got into like cliff jumping and like, paragliding, like all those things to kind of like conquer that fear, so that eventually like your system kind of becomes numb to it. And so same with, the cold showers in a way. And same for surfing, like it used to kind of stress me out to kind of like either swim so far, when I was much younger, or even like, surf, when I was like a little kid. But no, I'm pretty, yeah, determined to like, conquer that fear, or it's actually been conquered. So I'm not really that stressed about it, to tell you the truth. Um, so I think the next level for this of that fear of, not knowing what's lurking is conquering what am I trying to say?
Scuba
Scuba.
diving?
Thank
Oh,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
scuba. Yeah.
Wait, so the first time you surfed was in Hawaii? That was where you got your first wave?
Yeah. Yeah. In Hawaii. Yep.
Oh, very cool, and also at the same time very scary. That one is, I'm not a strong swimmer. That is what's preventing me from doing an Ironman up until now. And then the other thing is, um, if my swimming got strong enough, I would right away think about sharks because uh, that's just, even though they're so rare, that's just the first thing that kind of pops in your mind with all the movies and just what you hear. But surfing is definitely something that it just looks like such a great experience because it's all nature except your little board.
Crap. Sorry, I was muted. yeah, again, surfing is kind of a strange thing for me because growing up like in Southern California, like having like a bunch of buddies that are surfers, and kind of being around the culture, like I didn't really get into it, and quite possibly like because I was a little bit more of a lazy surfer. When I was younger, I got this impression that you had to like get up like at before 6 a.m. and go out there and put on the wetsuit, and it's like really cold, and it just wasn't an enjoyable experience. But when I did go in Hawaii, it was easy. You just hop on a bikini and like head out and like paddle out, and it's like amazing conditions, and you're just hanging out in the water with your friends. The water's clear. So it was like a little bit of a different experience from like doing it in San Diego when I was much younger. But now it's like I don't know what's happened. Like I do feel like I've been reborn in that way where now, yeah, I live for the water, where like I have to be immersed in it. I don't know, it's very healing for me. Um I think mental health and everything. So I don't know. I'm really excited to like, start this like surfing thing and the shark thing. I mean, that's valid because the great white sharks actually I think give birth like right around in Malibu. And just a few years ago, I don't know if you remember that when we were having like that whole shark thing, where I guess like the temperature of the currents changed or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, so you remember that. So I had a buddy that lived in Sunset Beach, and this great white like beached up like right in front of his apartment. Like showed me like the video like on his phone, and this shark was just like rah, teeth. So that was interesting. But I don't know. We'll see. It's like I'm not too crazy of a surfer. Like I know some guys that will go into like purposely like shark infested waters, and I also have known like friends who surf at night, which I find so to be so incredible. So I don't know.
Yeah, I was never really too much into surfing, and then I saw the movie Point Break, and I was like, well, that's pretty dope. And then you start seeing these very, as the cameras get better and better, the GoPros, you could start seeing just these people riding waves, and it just seems so I can't even think of the word because it's just you're a man riding a wave, and that's like not even natural. So it's got to be just an extraordinary feeling. Definitely got to work on my swimming. So hopefully next time you come on, I'll be a better swimmer, and you can tell us about your surfing adventures, especially since it's hot right now. You get to go hit the waves, and yeah, for sure, keep us updated. I would love to hear when you do any sort of competition, and like I said, have you on before or after, or if you want to come on before and get some Asahi sponsorships, possibly.
That's true. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was, yeah, like a different experience to be interviewed. Yeah, thanks for listening. And by the way, with the swimming thing, I am a classic floater, like on my back or doggy paddler. So Coach Ray, I'm sorry, but you don't have an excuse. So I will see you out there on the beach then, especially when we get together for our event in Ventura. So yeah, would love to come back on again. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And okay, so here's the thing. I can swim, but I get tired really quickly, and then I go into the doggy, and then that's it. I go under. So I don't really consider that swimming because if I had to do an Ironman, I would just not survive. I have a few friends that I'll be bringing on to the platform that have done Ironman, and you know, one, it's a lot of your technique and your swimming, but then depending if you're, they have different types of Ironman. Like the most prestigious one is in Hawaii, and when you're in open water, even if you're a really good swimmer, you're kind of crowded. So someone will be slapping your hand as you're doing your stroke, and then someone will slap your other hand, not on purpose, but either with their foot or their hand. So you're kind of crowded, and some people will panic, and here and there, unfortunately, people die in the Ironman. And yeah, that's another thing that I'm like, oh, if I do anything like that, I really have to not just rely on the good old doggy one. But looking forward to the Ventura event, and I definitely got to work on the swimming. And who knows, maybe I could do a Point Break Part Two. Although I heard they're remaking it.
Really? Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm a little bit suspicious about this.
Yeah,
But okay.
yeah. Sometimes a remake maybe shouldn't be made, but or actually, I think they already did actually, and they brought in. Actually, I think they remade it. I think it came out. I never watched it, but they brought in like the best hang gliders and snowboarders and like all these Red Bull Championship people, and they put GoPros on them to make it like even more crazier than the first one. But I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay, cool. Um, but yeah, Coach Ray, let me know when you do your Ironman. Then, looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, I'll let you know for sure. And once again, thank you so much for being here. I enjoyed the conversation, and I hope everyone else listening in did too. Till next week, as I come back for more athletic definition episodes on Thursday and Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time zone. Thank you, everybody, for joining in, and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you so much, Coach Ray.
Thank you.